Welcome to a cargo update. This is Irshad. We have with us today a special guest. He is Chief Operating Officer for DULSCO, Antony Marke. Welcome to our show, sir.
Yep, thank you very much, Mohammed.
Yeah, thank you. Well, speaking about DULSCO, can you make a brief introduction about DULSCO?
Sure. DULSCO is a UAE registered company. It's been established for 87 years. It's based in Dubai, providing services to many industry groups. And one of those predominant ones is the aviation business. But our other divisions look after environmental services across the UAE. We also have a white-collar recruitment business, which is a brand called Parisma. And we also just recently made an acquisition, which is very exciting, called AGR, which is Advanced Global Recruitment, which specializes in recruitment and deployment in the oil and gas industry.
You started as a stevedoring company and you have been evolving into providing people solutions and environmental solutions.
Yeah.
Can you tell more about it?
Absolutely. I mean, 87 years ago, we were the principal offloaders for the stevedoring work in the Dubai. And then that's just really grown, with our UAE heritage. We've been able to grow into governmental type contracts, particularly around manpower supply. And that's just evolved into the industry group of aviation, for example, where we are about 6,000 employees strong across 12 airports within the UAE.
That's a great achievement, basically. And what is your contribution for ground handling in specific?
Yeah, specifically, we support the ground handlers. We see ourselves very much as an enabler to help them drive their efficiencies, the passenger service scores, but also to help with their safety records as well. So a lot of our employees do a range of services such as baggage handling, driving passengers on buses, looking after passengers with determination, check-in staff, and supporting the likes of Etihad Airport Services, but also Donata, as well as a number of other companies here in the UAE.
Can you highlight some specific initiatives or the projects in the aviation industry where DULSCO has made a significant contribution in it?
I mean, I would say the first principal one is around drivers. So as we came out of COVID, the pandemic, the experience of drivers was a little bit in short supply. And last year I opened up something called the DULSCO Training Academy.
Okay.
And as part of that, it's a driving school. So we were able to reassess all our drivers, do driver training with them, with new drivers, get them assessed and get them to a standard where they could get their RTA license moving forward. We've now expanded that to include items such as forklift training, forklift driver training, but we've also now expanded that to sort of more learning and development skills, so skills for the future. So we are starting to train our employees in how to manage or customer service skills, or even practical skills like welding, plumbing, electricity, etc. So that's one initiative. Another one is around driver behavior out on the road. We've introduced a telematics system and driver tool with a company called SafeFast, and that's proved to be hugely successful. We have actually seen our accident rates go down by 200%, and we have actually seen a fuel economy of our buses by about 5% through better defensive driving. So those are just two initiatives that we've done in the last year.
That's a great initiative, actually. I feel like wherever you find the opportunities, you just jump in there and create your own base.
Absolutely.
It's more like that.
But to be honest, Mohammed, one of the things that I really enjoy is just making tomorrow a little bit better. And as part of that, I've been enabled by the DULSCO board to come up with these ideas and actually implement them. And what we're now attracting is third-party interest in these services. So no longer are we just a manpower provider, but we're now an academy. And as part of that, we're looking at solutions and taking more responsibility for the services that we are providing for.
That's a promising shift.
Yes.
Actually.
Yeah. I mean, we're going from a manpower to an outsourced solution.
Exactly.
But with it comes a higher skill level.
Yeah.
And that gives us a greater opportunity to retain skills for the future. And you probably heard, at this conference, at the IATA conference, everyone's talking about skills shortage.
Yeah.
we're here to help solve those problems.
That's a topic for discussion today. I mean, in this present scenario of aviation industry, it's a hot topic.
Yeah.
The staff inefficiency and requirements as well.
Absolutely, and having worked in the aviation space for over 30 years, more recently having an international role that involved Europe and the US, I am painfully aware of the skill shortages. And what I promised myself and promised my team is that we will not fall into that trap here in MENA.
Actually, what I was asking is, how do you think the aviation industry actually dealt with the staff issues during the COVID? And is it like it's because of the aviation industry, I mean companies which left the staff during the COVID are the main reasons today for these kind of issues coming up?
Well, I've seen it from two lenses. One is I've only been in the UAE for just over a year, so I've seen what DULSCO did, and what I'm really proud about the company that I've joined is actually they kept their employees where they could. They actually, adjusted the way they operated and everything, but they didn't just let people go.
Yeah.
So they retained the key skills for the future. We also had a number of customers here in the UAE who actually helped fund that process as well. So working in real partnership, we haven't actually experienced that in DULSCO. In my European role, yes, I experienced it. And we had to put some enabling technology into the business at a very early stage, which was around applicant tracking systems to track all the applications. But we also had to look at things like terms and conditions, work welfare, mental health, diversity, graduates, apprenticeship schemes, all these things we had to look at to make ourselves an employer of choice in what was a very competitive market. And again, I can take those principles here as we start to develop our business going forward in DULSCO.
Yeah. Do you really think there is a hot topic? I mean, there is wide discussion about digitalization. There's discussion about automation. Is it really because of the issues we are facing with the staffs? I mean, like shortage of staffs or employees for these kind of skilled works. It is like the aviation industry actually wants digitalization. How do you see it?
It's an interesting question, and I think IT plays a big part in the aviation space. As everyone knows, you can now check in online. You can use an app to get on board. There's paperless systems. But having said that, there's also the human connection.
Exactly.
There will always be a need for that. When I travel, certainly, I like to talk to people, and I like to feel that I'm going on a journey. And there are a number of people who like to travel in that way. There'll always be bags that will be need to carry. There'll always be buggies that need to be driven. Yes, you can automize to a certain degree, but you can't automize everything.
Yeah, this is a two-way of seeing the things, and actually there are two mindsets of people. One mindset is more towards the digitalization. One mindset is like, yeah, we need digitalization as well as we need the same old traditions as incorporating with each other. What's your take on it?
Well, having been involved in both the digitalization processes at Heathrow as well as customer service program, the customer service program has benefited through some of the digitalization. So having tablets to help with wayfinding, with multi-languages, with translator on technology, all these things have helped with the passenger experience. But as I said earlier, you can't beat the human connection.
Exactly.
That welcoming face when you arrive. Good morning, welcome to our lounge, sir. We will let you know what time your plane is boarding. Those are really, really important parts in the satisfaction of people who are using these facilities. If you automate too much, you'll lose the personality.
Exactly. To add on to the point, to make a notion in that, AI is in its developing stages, and as you said, to welcome and to, the human connections, even AI is being introduced to make the same changes. Replace or comprehend the
Well, I've
same
been
issue.
reading about it as much as everyone else. It's big news at the moment because technology companies are looking at regulations to stop AI, which I find fascinating. But regardless of that, there's been holographic imagery, giving people directions and so on. again, the human connection is a very important touch.
Exactly.
When you're buying something through an airport, you want to know about the product. You want the storytelling. You want the experience of it. And I think those are very, very important parts. In terms of the ramp activity and autonomous buses, and people don't need to be driving those, that's a technology that's still to be proven in what is a very congested area on the apron of an airport.
Now coming back to the ground handling process, how does DULSCO ensure efficient and seamless operations in ground handling processes for its clients?
So we work very closely with our clients. We leverage their training programs to support and their standard operating procedures. And most of our clients work to an ISAGO standard and with an IGOM standard as well. So we very much endorse those and supportive of those. And we also have our own auditing systems that are auditing our individuals on stand or at the workplace, depending on what they're doing, to those international standards.
Can you provide examples how DULSCO has helped improve operational efficiency and cost effectiveness for its aviation counterparts?
Well, we are in a very much a dog-eat-dog world. We have to be very, very competitive on our charge rates, and therefore we have to be very efficient in the way that we do things. So within the UAE, obviously we have additional costs such as accommodation, vehicle transportation costs, as well as we're having a roster and so on. So we are investing in our own digitalization programs to help drive those efficiencies to remain competitive. But also with that competitiveness comes some investments, and we have shoehorned a number of investments such as biometric systems, clocking in, clocking out, using of QR codes, and also Bluetooth technology with iBeacons to help drive productivity.
How does DULSCO contribute to environmental sustainability in the ground handling or aviation industry in whole?
Well, very much I'm an early adopter. Having driven a number of electric vehicles in my lifetime, carbon footprint and the reduction of CO2 emissions for the future and future generations is very, very much at the core of what we do. We actually have measured our carbon footprint. We have scoped out Scope 1 and Scope 2 as part of our 2050 net zero program, and we'll continue to develop that as we go forward, adding Scope 3 at some point.
Well, talking about the subject, when you spoke about e-vehicle, is this the only way we can reduce the carbon footprints, or you feel like, there are options, hydrogen things are coming into practice?
Well, I think
what is your take on it?
Yeah, I think with vehicles, I think we're a little bit away from a hydrogen. There needs to be a network, and I do think the EV way of operating is something that we should be investing in and developing. Unfortunately, the bigger the vehicle, the less distance and the less time capacity. Plus, in the UAE, it tends to get a little bit warm, so you have the extra component of air conditioning that needs to be factored into it. But that's one aspect of emissions. Buildings also create their own emissions. Solar paneling, utilizing the sun, which we have plenty in this region, to help with it, storing electricity, using that storage of electricity to feed vehicles, to reduce your carbon footprint is an absolute essential. But we're also doing some of the softer side of things. We're preserving water. So we've actually, in our offices, in our accommodation, we've introduced water fountains, and we've given everyone a bottle that is used instead of using plastic bottles. So we're trying to reduce the amount that's going into landfill, through various strategies and education pieces that we are doing. We also run a recycling bus as part of our environmental solutions. We also have a character called Birdie. So we're trying to promote that in the local communities by going to schools, educating people of what to recycle and how to recycle.
A final question. I don't know whether you are more familiar with it. Is there anything DULSCO has to do with the cargo industry?
We are very much in the cargo industry in terms of supporting our client base. So Emirates, Donata Cargo, we provide the manpower to support them in those areas. And again, we meet with their standards and we continue to support them, whether it be forklift driving or manual handling within those facilities.
How do you think the aviation industry is evolving in the future? Maybe for 5 more years, what is going to happen with aviation industry?
Well, it's interesting. Recently, there's been a lot of announcements of passenger volumes, particularly low-cost airlines, exceeding pre-pandemic levels of passenger flow. Yes, I know cargo has dropped down in volume. That's predominantly due to the pandemic. But there is always international trade, and we need to continue to open those barriers so that we can trade more internationally. That will drive more cargo volume through the various airports. But I think the future is bright for aviation, and I think we'll continue to grow. And I think the Middle East is going to be a very, very interesting place. As things start to develop. Certainly with the super airlines that are
even the
investing.
airports are coming into existence.
Yes.
More airports and more airlines like Riyadh Air and many more.
Yes. I certainly wish Tony and Peter Bailu great luck in that. But ultimately, the Middle East is a great hub, and it's great to see investment going into the Middle East, because that will only create opportunities for you, me, and our futures. And our future colleagues as well, which is great news.
Yeah, exactly. And that's it for today. Thank you for joining with us today for